Hey y'all, Data Guy back with another week of Live with Astronomer. So I know I've been gone for 2 weeks, but I'm back, and I'm back with a really cool episode where today we'll be going through all of the changes and even just some of the additions to the reporting suite available in the Astronomer control. So the team's been really hard at work at kind of just improving a lot of the ways to monitor and manage your airflow outside of the airflow UI. Because as we all know, the airflow UI is functional, but it's not very pretty. And when you are managing multiple airflow environments, switching even between all those different UIs to monitor and capture what's happening in your DAGs can become really troublesome. And so that's why we have the DAGs view now. And so the DAGs view is basically a way for me to monitor all of my DAGs within a particular workspace, but not only monitor, I can go into a particular DAG and I can actually run it directly from the Astro UI. So you see here, when I trigger a run, it will trigger it just like I'm running it within the Astro UI. I can always, like I'm running the Airflow UI, I can always open up the actual Airflow UI and go and monitor this DAG, using that UI. But basically, our goal here has been to take all of the information that's captured, in the grid view in the Airflow UI, and make it available in the control plane, so you can search across all of your DAGs, and you don't have to keep going into the Airflow UI to actually, make changes or rerun or edits to. So not only can you actually edit it, you can see I have basically just a grid view here. I can also look at the DAG graph and add a little bit. So you go down into this kind of DAG graph area. So if you've been to our registry or have worked with Lineage, this format might look pretty familiar, where you can see I can click on a particular task and I can actually look at its logs, again, directly with Roleplane UI, so I don't have to go all the way into my Airflow UI every time I want to monitor a DAG. And so if I want to, let's say, change from test to failed or retry it directly from here, I have that option. So you can see I can have the full control of how I'm retrying my DAGs as I would in the But now I don't actually have to go in there. So I'm switching between DAGs that are switching between deployments. I don't have to switch interfaces. Um, and so that's kind of the DAGs view at a micro level. It also makes it really easy for you to tag. So if you have maybe DAGs across many different teams or across many different Airflow deployments, you'll filter and search them without having to go into each individual. I want to all my Snowflake DAGs or anything that my ETL team is. Then I can search that in here and have it available immediately to me as an admin. And you can obviously hide some of these actual employees if you don't want them to do any of these actions. They can just workspace viewer. And you can also filter by a particular deployment. One deployment in this workspace, so it's going to show me all my DAGs here. But if you have multiple deployments, as many do in production, you have that option now, just for one. You can also look for active versus pause DAGs, as well as what the owner are. If your team is taking really tags in Airflow, this kind of just up that. You can also search by last run status. So like if I just isolate for all of my failed tags, because those are probably the ones I'm most concerned about, I have that option. And so that's just kind of the first thing I wanted to go into, which is big updates to the DAG view. Before it was really just kind of a list of DAGs. Now it's really functional to the point where you don't really need to ever use the Airflow when you're in the Astro control plane, which is awesome. Now, taking it outside of the DAGs view into some of our monitoring and metrics. So I know a lot of you might have seen this screen before in terms of the analytics page. I just wanted to call back to it because some of you might not know about kind of the worker queue isolations. You can look at, hey, just the resources for a particular worker queue. And so here, if I go to my worker section, so historically, you get information on CPU pod, pod count, environment as a whole. Now, if I have multiple worker types on the same environment, or let's say I just have a particular worker queue just for my really intensive IO operations, right? Then I can select that particular worker queue and just monitor the CPU of that worker. So what typically this is helpful for is if, hey, I have one DAG or one task that's just spiking my CPU usage out of the ordinary. being able to isolate for, hey, just this, small groupings of tasks, or even if you're trying to test it further on, you can set all of your, tasks in a pipeline to a different worker queue and then see, okay, which one of these actually is spiking my CPU, and kind of do your attribution of resource consumption that way. So you have those insights, and you can here too as well. I switch to another one. Um, so now that's one thing. Quick update on the metric side of things. And then on the logs side of things, we have really big updates where now it's not just the scheduler logs that are surfaced here, but it is also the trigger and the web server and the worker logs that are all serviced within this one UI. So you can see I can filter by keyword, um, success, because I love success. You can see here, every successful DAG run. And similarly, I can search for error, I can search for whatever thing I want across all of my logs, and have that information just available here within one unified logs view. So you don't have to keep switching between different views when you're trying to monitor, many different tasks or many different pipelines within an environment. And as you can see, you can extend this, log duration for as long as you need, or up to 24 hours. Further, go and check your S3 or your bucket for your log files, wherever they're living. So I wanted to show that off. And then the final thing I wanted to go over today was some of the new billing and attribute usage metrics. Oh, actually, before that, so one thing that I get asked a lot is, hey, are there audit logs? How do I get those? If you want audit logs, all you'll do is choose, hey, 1 to 90 days. This is how much I want to see of my audit logs. Those will be action by action breakdown of who performed what action within your Astro control plane. Okay, who clicked this button, who created this deployment. So if there's some kind of security breach, or if you're just trying to figure out, hey, who did what, and who changed what, the audit logs are a great way to kind of go through. Then under billing, so this is where I also want to show you some of the updates. Everyone, when they're working with Airflow, they're worried about, hey, what are these tasks using? What is my recent usage? Am I paying for? Actually using my environment. And so what we have here now is a breakdown of, hey, not just your invoices, charging per month with price per hour here, but you can also look in and see exactly which deployments are being used, which types of compute, how much of that you're actually using over time. So you can see, hey, maybe if at the high level, I can see that, one dedicated cluster is driving most of my cost, but then I can go in here and see, hey, this is use. This is obviously I'm drawing some nonsense conclusions here, but I really just wanted to show you, hey, some of the options you have for monitoring how much your different across your team admin have that information across attribution. And that is really all I have for you today. So I hope you learned something today. I know I learned a lot going through this, and hope you make use of it. That's all there for. So have a good one, y'all.